Background: Qyx is an arcade game developed and published by Taito in 1981. Upon release, Qyx was a commercial hit and quickly rose to being one of the most popular titles of the year. In Japan, it was the 5th highest grossing arcade game of 1981. The game exceeded Taito's expectations and was praised for its unique premise and gameplay mechanics. The Atari 2600 homebrew port, spelled Qyx, was developed by Champ Games in 2022 and published by Atariage. The game was nominated for 3 awards during the 5th annual Atari Zeropage Homebrew Awards, including Atari 2600 Best Homebrew, Best Graphics, and Best Music and Sound. Since this is a Champ Games port, it's a given that there will be some extra features thrown in. Game description: when you first power on your console with Qyx, we are presented with the Atariage logo and tune. On the bottom of the screen, the detected joysticks and devices are listed. At this point, if a save key or AtariVOX is present, the high score, current skill level, game mode, and number of players will be read in. These settings can be reset by holding the reset button when powering on the Atari console. Title screen. Next, the title screen displays. The outline of the letters Qyx draw in from left to right as if being handwritten. They then fill in, alternating in the game's fill colors, yellow and blue. As they do, sound effects are playing. Just above the title screen, the previous game score and player number will display, provided a game was recently played. If a recent co-op mode game was played, then the scores and player number will alternate. Just beneath the title, the game mode is displayed. Selections can be made using the Game Select button on the console. The game mode options are single player, 2-player alternating, 2-player cooperative, and 2-player cooperative alternating. As the game mode selections are being made, 1 diamond-shaped marker or 2 markers may display indicating single, 2-player, or cooperative game modes. The markers will flash for alternating game mode types. Their colors are red for player 1 and blue for player 2. Just beneath the game mode, the difficulty settings are displayed. Selections can be made by pressing left or right with the controller. They are Novice, Standard, which is considered more like the arcade, Advanced, and Challenge mode. Challenge mode features additional enemies and power-ups. There's a really nice chart in the game manual on page 6 outlining all the differences between the various difficulty settings or skill levels. And of course, the copyright and Champ Games logo are displayed bottom center. If no selections are made, or by pressing up and down on the joystick, the game instructions are displayed, followed by your opponent's high scores or Qyx kickers, then the game credits will display. While on the high score display, you will notice, as with all Atari 2600 Champ games, you can press left and right to toggle between the high scores for all of the difficulty settings. It will then switch to an attract or demo mode, simulating a quick single-player playthrough. Playfield layout. When a game is initiated, the screen is divided into 2 parts. The top portion of the screen has the game name on the left with the score just to the right. The diamond-shaped game tries or spare plays are stacked on the far right-hand side. White signifies the current try. Their color matched the current skill level, with green being novice, blue for standard, red advanced, and yellow for challenge mode. The number of tries will also vary with the difficulty setting. Beneath the score are 2 percentages. The one on the left is the player's percentage claimed, while the one on the right is the claim threshold. You have to claim at least that percentage to move on to the next level. Below that is the playfield surrounded by a white box. How to play. Qyx is a game where the player controls a diamond-shaped marker that can draw lines or sticks. The marker initially moves along the edges of the playfield. The objective of the game is to claim as much of the playing field as possible by drawing rectangles. In order to start drawing, the player must press the button while pointing the controller in the desired draw direction. Then release the button for what is called a fast draw. Using the standard CX40 joystick, if the player holds the button while drawing, a slow draw will be initiated. A bonus is awarded for slow fills. A successful fast draw will fill in blue, whereas a successful slow draw will fill in yellow. In the course of drawing your rectangle, you cannot reverse or cross your own path. While drawing, you must continuously move the marker, otherwise a fuse will appear at the base of your incompletely drawn rectangle, or again, what are referred to as sticks. Should the marker stay idle, the fuse will move along your sticks in an attempt to kill you. Resume moving to extinguish the fuse. The manual points out you should avoid what is referred to as the spiral death trap. This can happen if you trap yourself within your own uncompleted sticks. The fuse will appear and cannot be avoided. The enemies in the game consist of sparks that traverse the playfield following along the path the players have drawn. Initially colored red-yellow, they will not follow along the path of your sticks at first. Your marker must avoid touching them. The Qyx are what I would describe as a collection of lines or a geometric shape that move all around the unclaimed playfield, seemingly randomly. Its color alternates as it moves about, switching from red, blue, and green. They cannot touch your sticks or you will lose a life. In later levels, a second Qyx will appear. There is a time element in Qyx, signified by a red or blue line timer just above the playfield. Should this time run all the way down, 2 more sparks will appear. After the timer runs down a second time, all the sparks will change color to a blue-green and gain the added ability to follow along your sticks. When there are 2 Qyx, you have the option of splitting them by making a rectangle, trapping one of them within it, leaving the other one outside your rectangle. When this happens, the level immediately ends and your bonus multiplier is increased by 1, ultimately maxing out at 9. This is a highly desirable option to help achieve a high score. When you split the Qyx, it is not considered a claim, and you are not awarded bonus points as such. Alternately, to complete a level, the player must claim the minimum level threshold percentage as indicated just beneath your score display. At that point, a summary screen will display. Depending upon how the level was completed, a different summary screen will display for a level completed with a Qyx split versus one that was completed by hitting the required threshold. The split summary will indicate your level and will display your new bonus multiplier amount. The standard summary screen will indicate your level, display your percentages, and total bonus awarded. It is here that you'll be notified if you are awarded a free try for hitting 20% or more than your threshold. You will be awarded a level bonus of 1,000 points per percentage point over the threshold amount. Should you claim 99% of the screen, a 50,000 point bonus will be awarded. Again, no bonus is awarded when the level is completed by splitting the Qyx, but your bonus multiplier will increase by 1. The game ends after 99 levels have been completed and a message will display. Next, I'm going to cover a few of the gameplay options. Cooperative gameplay. The manual explains the co-op game modes allow 2 players to play Qyx simultaneously. In a co-op game, both players share the reserved number of tries and are working together to achieve 1 high score. There are 2 types of co-op modes, alternating and simultaneous. Simultaneous mode adds a number of extra features. 2-player alternating. In the 2-player alternating game mode, the players take turns controlling the marker. Player 1 has a red marker while player 2 has a blue marker. Each player has their own score. For the most part, the gameplay is similar to single-player mode, just taking turns each time a play is lost. The arcade version of Qyx also has this game mode. The following 3 game modes are all Champ Game exclusives. 2-player cooperative. In a 2-player cooperative game, both players are playing simultaneously. Player 1 controlling the red marker, player 2 controlling the blue marker. You will notice the sparks timer will change colors. Red for player 1 and blue for player 2. Both players share the reserved number of tries and are working together to achieve 1 high score. After losing a try, players can rejoin by pressing the button if retries are available. Both players can cooperate to create a larger claim by joining together their markers while drawing. To successfully earn a co-op claim, both players must be in the same draw mode, fast or slow. 2-player cooperative alternating. In a 2-player cooperative alternating game, players take turn playing every time a claim is made, with player 1 controlling the red marker and player 2 controlling the blue marker. Both players share the reserved number of tries and are working together to achieve 1 high score. Challenge mode. The challenge mode is another exciting feature or extra thrown into Qyx just for the fun of it. It is the most difficult and challenging option. It adds 2 unique features, a super fuse and power-ups. The super fuse is an extra fuse that will appear if draw mode is not engaged for 3 seconds. It will appear at the root of the last claim path and will follow the edge of the claimed areas, similar to the sparks behavior. The super fuse can be extinguished by drawing. In 2-player modes, either player could spawn the super fuse. Power-ups. There is a complete page in the manual, page 11, dedicated to covering how the power-ups work. In the challenge mode games, the power-ups will appear as little purple or green squares that follow along the same claim paths. In the challenge mode games, the power-ups will appear as little purple or green squares that follow along the same claim paths as the sparks, only they move slower and appear for a limited amount of time before disappearing. Your marker has to touch a power-up in order to engage it. The green power-ups will temporarily change the sparks timer line to green, and the type of power-up name will be printed just above the green line. There are a total of 8 power-ups, 4 purple and 4 green. I'll describe their functions here, paraphrasing the manual. I'll discuss the purple power-ups first. Reverse reverses the direction of all sparks on the screen. Timer resets the sparks timer, which will give you more time before the next batch of sparks are added to the level. Bomb removes 1 sparks from the grid, will only appear if there is more than 1 sparks present. Thresh 5 reduces the threshold for the level by 5%. This will only appear if the threshold is greater than 60%. Next are the green power-ups. Diffuse disables the fuse and super fuse for a few seconds. In co-op mode, diffuse disables the fuses for both players. Freeze freezes all sparks, fuses, and super fuses for a few seconds. They are still deadly though. Slow kicks slows down the kicks for a few seconds. Shield makes all the markers invincible from the sparks and superfuse collisions for a few seconds. Controls. Qyx is designed to support a couple of different devices. You can of course use a standard CX40 joystick as your main controller. Since this joystick has only one button, a quick single press will start a fast draw, while pressing and holding the button will initiate a slow draw. Alternately, you can plug in a Sega Genesis gamepad in which 2 buttons are supported. Hold button B for fast draw and button C for a slow draw. Cooperative mode setup. Now, in order to see the cooperative mode settings from the title screen, there must either be 2 joysticks plugged directly into the console, or a QuadTari device must be detected. The QuadTari should be plugged into the left joystick port. If you're not familiar with the QuadTari, it's an accessory produced by Bite the Chili Productions that allows up to 4 devices to be plugged into the Atari 2600 simultaneously. Qyx only allows 2 players at a time. So for example, both players can be plugged into the QuadTari, while at the same time a save key or AtariVOX can also be utilized. Those save keys can be plugged into either the right joystick port directly or into port 2 of the QuadTari, as illustrated by the manual. If you're only playing single player games, then a QuadTari would not be necessary. However, in my opinion, it is a must for 2-player games so that you can retain the option to save your high scores. Now, having gone over all of that, I prefer the Sega Genesis gamepad with the 2-button support. In my opinion, it's much easier to do the slow fills with this controller. Oh, and before I forget, while playing a game, toggling the TV type switch will pause play. Scoring. Scoring in Qyx is based on the percentage of claimed area and whether fast or slow mode was used. Referring to the manual, completing a claim area in fast mode is 100 points per percent claim times the current score multiplier. Completing an area claim in slow mode is 200 points per percent claimed times the current score multiplier. Connecting a co-op claim in simultaneous co-op mode is double the above points score per percentage. In my testing, I was able to push the score past 1 million, and the game seems to handle it just fine. I asked John Champeau if it was possible to hit 10 million. He said he is pretty sure if you get past 9,999,999, the score should roll over to 0. Spare man / extra try. This part is a little confusing, but if you follow along closely, it will make perfect sense. On any level, if you exceed the claim threshold by at least 20%, you will be awarded an extra try. This is the only way to earn a free try. You will know if your current try is a free try if the marker on the top right is flashing white rather than solid. If you get killed after earning a free try, you remain on the same try and can then earn another free try. You cannot earn an additional free try on the same try unless you are killed first. Free tries are not awarded when splitting between 2 Qyx. Strategy. Let's read the tips from the manual first and see if I can add anything to it. Start drawing in fast mode at the start of a level to box in the Qyx before the grid is overrun with sparks. Draw long, elaborate sticks to keep the sparks occupied while you plan your next move. Additional sparks will always enter the playfield at the top middle of the grid. Build elaborate paths around that area before the sparks timer expires to trap the sparks in a loop. Plan your move before starting to draw so you don't trigger the fuse or get caught in a spiral death trap. Watch the super sparks to determine if they're moving in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction and use this clue to shake them from your trail. On levels with 2 Qyx, claim as much area as you can before attempting to split the Qyx to earn more points in the earlier rounds. I would say in all rounds, not just in the earlier rounds. Plan your final draw so that it claims enough of an area to exceed the threshold percentage. Also, try to make the final draw in slow mode to maximize your score. As usual, the manual has some really great gameplay tips. I would only add, try to build up your score multiplier as high as possible to ×9. This should maximize your score for each level going forward. One other strategy I like to employ is to construct a straight sticks and draw stair steps while moving closer to safety. When playing cooperatively, try not to trap your partner within your claim. On the challenge game mode, use the freeze power-up to more easily claim a high percentage by capturing the Qyx. Difficulty settings / level ramp-ups. The manual details the console's difficulty switches. The left difficulty switch on the Atari 2600 console specifically controls the likelihood of the sparks being caught in a sparks trap, or loop, that was previously described in the strategy section. In position A, the sparks are less likely to get caught in a sparks trap, while in position B, the sparks are more likely to get caught in a sparks trap, which makes it more like the arcade settings. The right difficulty switch controls the Playfield color blending display. Position A is disabled, meaning it will remove the shimmer effect but only shows one color per line. Position B is enabled, meaning up to 3 colors can be displayed per line. The maze will shimmer slightly to achieve this effect. This is a really nice option to have, especially if the shimmering bothers you. I asked John Champeau, the game's designer and programmer, about the specifics of the speed ramp-ups as you progress through the levels. He responded, "There are actually 8 speeds for the Qyx, 1 being the slowest and 8 being the fastest. The speed starts at 1, 2, 3, or 4 depending upon your skill level. 1 is novice, all the way up to 4 for challenge. The speed doesn't increase between levels 2 and 3 since level 3 is the first level with 2 Qyx. So novice speed by level is 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and every level starting from level 8 is the same speed. Standard speed is 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Advanced speed is 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7. Challenge speed is 4, 5, 5, 6, 7. Now note, those speeds will start over, or they will rotate through those speeds. So in other words, when I say standard speed is 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it will then start over at 2. I would like to say the speed ramp-ups are certainly noticeable from level to level. They continuously repeat until you reach level 99. It feels like a much-needed break when the cycle starts over and the Qyx slow back down for a few levels. Graphics. One of the things you will notice, when the graphics on an Atari 2600 game are done right, or at the level of a Champ Games release, you will be so transported into the game that the lower resolution really will not matter. Sure, the resolution is less than half of the arcade standard resolution, so a few trade-offs have to be made. The playfield is, for example, much smaller vertically. Due to the main differences in resolution, you will notice, for example, the vertically drawn lines are much thicker than the original. The fills are not perfect, but by adjusting the right difficulty switch, the player does have some control of how the fills are made. Speaking of the power-ups, I'm impressed by the simple fact that there was a serious effort put into it. They are not just small colored squares. Each one has its own specific graphic detail that indicate which power-up is on display. Another detail that might be easily missed is the color of the graphics that display when the marker first makes its appearance on the screen. Red for player 1 and blue for player 2. Really nice attention to detail. Aside from that, the graphics are fairly basic. They don't have to be fancy, and they line up pretty closely to the arcade classic. Congratulations to Nathan Strum for his nomination for Atari 2600 Best Graphics. Keeping in mind I am playing and reviewing this game designed for a machine that was released more than 40 years ago, the graphics, in a word, are astounding. Sound. Some of the best attributes of any game are the music and sound effects. If you can nail the sound effects, it can really bring a project to life. Qyx is no exception. It does a great job of mimicking the arcade sound effects and even has a few additional sounds in the title screen. Let's go through most of the sounds that play. There's the sound effect for the AtariAge logo as soon as you power up the game. A few notes are played on the title screen while the fills change colors. A beep sounds while changing difficulty and viewing the different high score screens. A sound effect plays while selecting the game mode. When the attract mode starts, all the game sounds are present. When a new game is initiated, a sound effect plays. The Qyx moving around the screen has a distinct sound effect, sounds sort of like a bee, and plays continuously alongside the other sound effects. When the fuse is lit, a sound effect plays. When claims are made for slow and fast draw, a tune plays. When you lose a try, a sound effect plays. When the timer runs out, a few beeps play. When you complete a level, another tune plays. When the game ends, if you make it to the high score screen, a sound effect plays and your letter selections beep. The manual credits Bob DiCrescenzo for providing the sound effects. I really think the sound effects were well done and closely mimic the arcade. Bugs. Not bugs. I've spent a lot of time this week playing Qyx, and I identified a few issues I thought were bugs, but turned out there were valid, simple explanations for all of them. It is possible to trap the sparks, at least for a little while, in a loop. This is probably a feature more than it is a bug, although I'm not sure this behavior was intended when the arcade Qyx was designed. It was mentioned earlier in the strategy section. It can be an effective way to rid yourself of those pesky sparks. This next one is more of a nitpick. On screens where text is printed, I noticed there's a strange segment of discoloration on the left border at the same level the text is displayed. It seems to occur apparently anytime text is displayed in the middle of the screen. John explained this is a limitation of the Atari hardware and is unavoidable if you want to display a 96 pixel sprite for text. You can see in games like Missile Command or Pete's Soccer. During testing, I noticed some oddities with the Stella emulator save states. I thought certainly this is a bug, and it probably is, but not with the Qyx game. One other thing I noticed is that the hit detection is not pixel perfect, but this was done intentionally. Quoting John, "I think it's close enough to make the game more enjoyable, especially considering how wide your lines are versus the arcade." I definitely agree with him, although there have been times when I have been able to seemingly go through the Qyx. However, this is rare and you certainly cannot count on it as a strategy. Suggestions for improvement. Champ Games has done an amazing job on this port. As with most of their games, they seem to think of everything from the controller configurations, two-player mode options, cooperative gameplay, even down to the smallest details have been addressed. The only thing I can think of that would make it slightly more arcade accurate would have been to have had made the Qyx a little more like the arcade version. You see, arcade Qyx was more like a collection of sticks that could fan out a bit, and at times had varying widths and lengths. They also moved significantly faster from the jump. Having said that, you have to consider this is a port to a console that has been out for nearly 46 years, and the way it was implemented, frankly, works just fine. Packaging. The artwork for Qyx present in the box, manual, and cartridge is beautifully done, depicting your marker almost resembling a spaceship drawing lines among the clouds. The rectangular filled-in claims are visible. Qyx is spelled out diagonally across the center. All pages of the manual are adorned with the same graphics as a backdrop. The cartridge has the same label, although at least on my copy it is a few shades darker than the box and manual. Regarding the manual, they have really done a fantastic job with it. Champ Games has always produced great manuals, but I feel like this one is a step above the others as it pertains not only to the artwork, but also the content. Credit to Dave Exton, who was responsible for the artwork on the box, cartridge, manual, and labels. Ports. According to Wikipedia, arcade Qyx was ported to the Atari 5200, Atari 8-bit family, Commodore 64, MS-DOS, Amiga, Apple II GS, Game Boy, Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Atari Lynx. Media coverage. On February 25, 2023, it was announced that Qyx was nominated for 3 Zeropage Homebrew Awards, including Best Homebrew, Best Graphics, and Best Music and Sound. Congratulations to John and the team for the nominations. The world premiere of Qyx was on the Zeropage Homebrew Twitch channel back in November 2021. World record. As this is a fairly new release, I was unable to locate any official world record or even high score posting on the highscore.com website. However, the twingalaxies.com website has the arcade version of Qyx at 1,666,604, set by Bill Camden on January 15, 1983. Easter eggs. John was kind enough to share one Easter egg for this review. Spoiler alert! There is a level skip built into the game. On odd levels, if you hold the fire button and press Game Select on the console, the game will skip ahead to the next level. Conclusion. Qyx is a fantastic port of the arcade game that is spelled Qyx. John Champeau and the team have done a tremendous job of putting this game together. In addition to the amazing graphics, gameplay, and sound effects, this game supports several modern devices, such as the AtariVOX Savekey, twin-stick controllers, Sega Genesis gamepad, the QuadTari, and it uses a special 32K Melody-enhanced cartridge board. The game has Champ Games exclusive content such as challenge mode, two-player cooperative modes, ability to enable and disable sparks traps, and graphics options. These Champ exclusives alone make it worth purchasing. I had a blast playing the cooperative game modes. It's so much fun. The complete in-box version of Qyx is currently available for purchase through the Atariage web store for $60 in NTSC or PAL60 format. Highly recommended. If you're interested in playing Qyx on your computer, you can download the demo ROM or purchase the full ROM version over at champ.games. As usual, you'll need to download the latest version of the Stella emulator, or at least version 6.7. Champ Games are currently working on Turbo Arcade and Elevator Agent, a port of Elevator Action. They are also hard at work on their first sports game, Champ Sports Baseball. I guess we'll have to wait and see if it can rival the great Major League Baseball game for the Intellivision. Recently, Albert from Atariage has announced his plans to sell off remaining inventory of all games that are not original IPs. All inventory for these games are currently marked 10% off. The sale is set to conclude July 23, 2023. I asked John how this will impact Champ Games. He mentioned he is planning on completing Turbo Arcade and Elevator Agent this fall. In fact, he plans to have 50 copies of each available for sale at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo this October. He says they will be planning to focus more on original titles, but are still planning more ports. He's looking for a publisher, and at this point there is uncertainty in that area. He mentioned they may even publish the games themselves. I'd like to take this moment to thank John Champeau again for taking the time and being super responsive to all of my questions. Credits: Code and Design, John W. Champeau. Art and Graphics, Nathan Strum. Music and Sound Effects, Bob D. Crescenzo. Packaging, Illustration, and Design, David Exton. Testing, Jorgen Oster and Nathan McAllister Withy. Published by Atariage. Postscript: I was attempting to play cooperatively using the Stella emulator with the QuadTari plugged in, since I only have one USB adapter. However, I quickly found my current adapter does not support the QuadTari. I contacted John Champeau and he mentioned it could be worked around by plugging in two USB adapters and simulate the QuadTari in the emulator by configuring QuadTari for the left port and then configuring joystick 3 with the second controller. Although that doesn't work for me right now, since I only have one USB adapter, it's a nice option to have. I asked him what adapter he uses and recommends. He came back with, quote, I believe the only adapter that supports the QuadTari hardware is the 2600 Adapter D9. I use it all the time for testing my games and also for dual joystick games on MAME. Works great. That was enough for me to go check out the website and place an order. Thanks for watching.